My mother hurled scalding soup in my face because I refused to hand over everything I owned to her stepdaughter. The steam burned my skin, but her words cut deeper. "Give her all your things, or get out," she screamed. I didn't fight. I didn't shout back. I just walked away carrying only a small bag and the leather wallet my father once pressed into my hand engraved with the words, "You are enough." When they came home later that night, the house was stripped bare, every trace of me gone. And in the silence of those empty rooms, a man in a suit was waiting with papers that would change everything. I'm about to share something close to my heart. But before I do, can you say hi in the comments? Or tell me where you're from. I love hearing how far my story reaches. It's always good to know I'm not alone in this. Thank you. And now, let me tell you everything. And if my story touches you, please consider subscribing to this channel. Every listener, every comment, every subscription helps me find the courage to keep telling these painful but true chapters of my life. My name is Jackson Wilder, and this is my story. The morning sun pressed down on Lakeway like a weight, even with the air conditioning humming at full blast. I stood in the kitchen, stirring a pot of Texas-style faux sweat running down my neck. The scent of basil carried me back to the day my father and I opened Wilder Market on South Congress, when everything smelled like new paint, fresh bread, and possibility. I glanced at the wall of family portraits in the living room. Kira's smile was everywhere, Marianne's curated family on display for the neighborhood HOA and social media. Not a single frame included me. It was like I'd been erased before I was even gone. My laptop sat open on the counter next to the pot. I checked the farm-to-table schedule I built into the accounting app I coded myself. Week 28, ready for delivery. I smirked bitterly because I had just seen Kira's Instagram post claiming credit for the initiative. She even used my exact phrasing, only dressed up with her hashtags and manicured smile. Marianne walked in without a hello. She scrolled her phone, her nails tapping against the screen. "Don't forget dinner at Hurled's tonight. We're celebrating Kira's leadership." Her tone wasn't a reminder. It was a decree. I answered flatly, my mind replaying those years after my father's stroke and death, the years I poured my life into rebuilding Wilder Market from debt into something respected. She didn't care. She set her phone down and looked straight at me. "It's time you handed over the Tesla and your credit card. Kira needs them to grow her career. A good son knows when to step aside." I reached into my pocket and touched the leather wallet my father had given me. The words engraved inside, "You are enough," burned hotter than the stovetop. My answer was steady. "No, I've given enough. I still pay this mortgage. That car is mine. My savings paid for it." Her eyes hardened. She snapped a picture of the breakfast table, posting it to her Austin Local Gems group with the caption, "Breakfast, prepared by Jackson for Kira's family." The sting wasn't in her lie, it was in her certainty that no one would question it. Outside, I heard the crunch of tires. Kira's SUV had arrived. "Give her everything or get out," Marianne's voice cracked like a whip. She grabbed the pot of soup still boiling and flung it at me. The liquid seared across my cheek and shoulder. Metal clattered against the tile. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I turned to the sink, rinsed my skin under cold water, pulled off my soaked shirt, and picked up my bag. I slid the wallet into my pocket and walked past Kira, who stood in the doorway with mock concern shining in her eyes like she'd just won a prize. I didn't look back. The Tesla roared to life and carried me out of that driveway, across the rolling hills and onto Pennybacker Bridge. Wind rushed in through the window, stinging the burn on my cheek. Freedom, painful and raw, tasted like asphalt and metal. Freedom isn't handed to you. You take it. My father's words echoed inside me. I will let the truth speak for me. As the bridge curved into the horizon, my phone buzzed. An email notification lit the screen. Harper, my father's lawyer. "The will is ready. Come see me this afternoon." I pulled into a lot overlooking Lady Bird Lake, snapped a picture of my burned face and saved it. Not as evidence yet. Just as a reminder of the day I finally walked away. The motel bathroom mirror was cracked in the corner enough to distort half my face. The red-brown burn across my cheek looked worse under the fluorescent light. I touched it, gently hissed, and scribbled a note to myself. Doctor tomorrow. But the truth was, the burn was nothing compared to the hollow ache of being erased from my own life. My phone rang. Riley's name appeared. Her voice was urgent. I kept something, Jex. A document. It has your signature on it, but I know you never signed it. Meet me behind Houndstooth. An hour later, the Austin sun baked the asphalt of the east side lot. Riley handed me a manila envelope. Inside was an assignment of interest transferring Wilder Market's control from me to Marianne. My supposed signature trailed across the bottom. My stomach dropped when I saw the bank statement attached funds moved directly from the store into Kira's account. I opened my laptop on the hood of my car and checked the metadata of the scanned file. The scan date matched the week of my father's funeral, the exact moment my world had already collapsed. They chose the day I was weakest, I whispered. Riley leaned in, pointing to the notary seal. Look at that. It's tilted. That's not original ink, it's been copy-pasted. I photographed it, created a new folder on my drive labeled For Harper, and saved it there. My email buzzed. Lila, a former employee, had forwarded me a grant application submitted to the state of Texas under my name. The project Austin Food Connect. The listed founder, Jackson Wilder. The interview responses, though, belonged to Kira. My tone, my words, my story, all stolen. I sat in the car, the city buzzing around me, and weighed my options. Report them now, call the police. But with just this, they could twist it back on me. If the grant went bad, I would be held responsible. I needed a full picture before I could strike. The truth wasn't enough, it had to be undeniable. So I wrote Harper attached everything and set a meeting for the next morning. Then I opened a spreadsheet and began cataloging every piece of evidence, rating it by source and strength. If they wanted to erase me, they'd chosen the wrong person. My phone buzzed again. This time a text from an unknown number. Don't sign anything from Marianne. Harper has what you need. But it's not just the will. I stared at the words until the screen dimmed. My face throbbed with heat, my shoulder burned, but deeper than either wound was the fire that had finally started to rise. They thought I would stay quiet. They thought I would fold. But I wasn't just a son anymore. I was the rightful heir, and I wasn't going to let them bury me alive. Morning in downtown Austin looked cleaner than it felt. The glass of the Frostbank Tower cut the sky into hard blue panels, and the Colorado River slid past like a calm promise I didn't entirely trust. Harper ushered me into his office with a quick glance at my cheek. We'll document the injury later, he said, crisp as a docket, and slid a black leather folder across the table. Inside lay the spine of my life. The original will name me the primary owner of Wilder Market. Marianne appeared only as a temporary co-manager if I was incapacitated for up to 12 months after my father's death. The words were steady and simple, the kind my father always preferred. The second document shook me, more a codicil in his careful handwriting, witnessed and sealed. If there was impersonation or falsified paperwork tied to Wilder Market, all managerial rights shifted to me immediately, and counsel could act on my behalf without delay. A fuse already wired. Harper took out a thin envelope and rested his fingertips on it like it might run. This was meant for you 5 years ago, he said. Inside lay a letter in my father's blocky script and a bank key taped to the bottom corner. Jackson, protect what matters. I trust you. Postage receipts showed it had been sent to the house. Harper's record showed it was never delivered. We'll pursue mail interference, he said, voice low. I breathed past the tightness in my chest and slid the forged assignment of interest across to him, followed by the grant files. He compared the notary seal to a register he kept on screen and tapped the name with the back of his pen. Miller. He's on your HOA. A neighbor. He's also had run-ins with Wilder Market about vendor permits. My lungs filled with the kind of slow fury that doesn't need heat to burn. We start with verification, Harper said. Independent handwriting analysis on your signature. A request to the state to put the grant on hold based on identity misuse. We file notice to reassert control under the codicil, and we document the intercepted letter. I nodded, then admitted the part I'd kept quiet. I helped buy the house. I'm on title with Marianne. Harper didn't flinch. That gives us a second track. If necessary, we initiate a partition. It's not pretty, but it's clean. He pushed one last envelope toward me. Scanned pages of my father's early ledgers from the 90s, his notes marching down the margins, and in the corner of each page the same inscription, for Jackson. Proof in ink of what he'd been building and for whom. It felt like a hand on my shoulder from a man who knew I would need it later. Harper leaned back. We'll take this public in a place that belongs to the neighborhood, he said. Zilker Park HOA meeting this weekend. If the truth needs a room, give it a crowded one. I pictured the hall, the folding chairs, the way whispers move faster than facts. My jaw set. I'll be there. He watched me stand, then added one last line, almost gentle. Be ready. When you drag the truth into the light, people will try to turn off the lights. I held the leather wallet in my palm until the letters stamped inside impressed against my skin. You are enough. The river outside slid on the city, busy with its errands, and for the first time in years, I felt the ground under my feet belong to me. I texted Riley as I left, asked her to keep her phone on for the weekend. I forwarded Lila's emails to a private archive and set calendar invites with attachments and timestamps. By the time I hit the sidewalk, the steps were already moving. Close the grant channel, freeze the fake transfer, publish the ownership notice under the codicil log, the injury, preserve every file. I tucked the letter back into its envelope like a live match and headed toward the garage, the heat pressing down in sheets. Across the river, the city looked exactly the same. I didn't. By Saturday, the air had thickened into that early summer weight Austin knows so well. The community hall at Zilker smelled like folding chairs and old coffee. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the lawn where families dragged coolers and kids chased shadows. Inside, Kira stood at the podium in a cream blazer, her slides beaming behind her South Congress revitalization lead partner, Wilder Market. She spoke like she'd been born to it. She used my phrases the way a person uses someone else's house key. I sat 3 rows back with Harper, a seat to my right. I felt the weight of the leather wallet in my pocket, the burn on my cheek tight like a reminder not to blink first. When the chair opened the floor for questions, I rose. No dramatics. Kira didn't inherit Wilder Market, I said, voice level. I've managed it since 2017. I carried a thick envelope to the front table and laid out tax filings, vendor contracts, and the delivery ledger from week 28. My name appeared in places they hadn't bothered to scrub. A woman near the back raised her hand. Her hair was white and braided into a crown. I remember your father, she said softly. At the opening, he told me that store was for you. You could feel the hum move through the room like a small storm. Kira laughed lightly, eyes a little too bright. Memories are unreliable, she said. We're all here to focus on the neighborhood's future. Harper stepped forward and held up a photocopy. This transfer document has a notary seal belonging to Mr. Miller, he said, indicating a man in a golf shirt near the aisle. Mr. Miller, are you comfortable confirming that this seal placed on a day the signatory was at a funeral is yours? Heads turned. Miller went red and tugged at his collar. I notarize a lot, he muttered. I don't remember every date. The chair scribbled a note. Someone near the window took out a phone. Marianne stood sharp as a snapped branch. My son is jealous, she said. He's trying to take what isn't his. He hasn't contributed a thing. I didn't take the bait. Harper slid the tax summaries across the table each year, stamped and signed 5 in a row. He contributed cash, time, expertise, and risk, Harper said, consistently. The room quieted the way rooms do when a lie stops fitting. A younger homeowner at the side table opened a laptop to the projector. I have something, he said. A video from 2020 filled the screen, our farm-to-table kickoff. There I was, standing behind the produce display, explaining how the local contracts would be structured, how small growers would be paid on delivery to stabilize their cash flow. The words on the video matched almost line for line the claims on Kira's slide deck. People didn't look at the screen, they looked at her. Kira's smile thinned. "Wilder Market is a community brand," she said. "I'm simply the face of what we all built." I could have said 100 things. I chose one. You can't be the face of something you tried to sign away from the person who built it. I placed the codicil notice on the front table stamped and filed that morning, and the chair read it quietly. Immediate reversion of control in the presence of falsified instruments, authorized counsel empowered to act. I looked at Miller. "Did you notarize that document?" He swallowed. "I'm talking to my attorney." Harper nodded once as if he'd expected nothing else. This wasn't a courtroom. It didn't have to be. It was a neighborhood room, and the neighborhood had eyes. I turned to the audience. "You've shopped at our store," I said. "You've seen me behind the counter, and you've seen me hauling crates at 5 a.m. I don't need applause, I need accuracy. We can't improve a street by lying about who paid for the asphalt." The chair cleared her throat and tapped her gavel lightly. "We'll table the revitalization agenda until ownership is clarified," she said. A murmur washed through the seats. Marianne sat down hard. Kira stared at the screen like it had betrayed her. On our way out, Harper leaned close. "Good start," he said. "They'll regroup. Expect something tonight or tomorrow. Don't engage unless it's in a room with rules." I nodded. Outside the park opened wide, the lawn bright, the city doing what cities do, moving forward whether you're ready or not. I slipped my hand into my pocket and felt the ridges of the stamped letters again. The meeting hadn't ended anything. It had simply made what was true visible to more people. By the time I reached my car, messages were already stacking up: support from old customers, cautious questions from vendors, a single line from an unknown number reminding me to be careful. I sat behind the wheel until my heartbeat slowed, then started the engine. I didn't look back at the hall. I didn't need to. The room was full, the lights were on, and for once nobody could pretend they didn't see me. Perlas glowed like a stage-warm bulbs strung over the patio glasses, chiming a server gliding past with oysters on ice. Marianne had reserved the long table by the window and placed Kira in the center like a crown jewel. I took the end seat, the one you give a guest you'd rather forget. Harper sat 2 chairs away, folding his napkin with the patience of a chess player. Kira dabbed her lips and smiled for a selfie. "The Tesla's been a godsend," she announced loud enough for neighboring tables. "Back-to-back meetings with investors. Thank you, Mom. And a little credit to my brother for breaking it in." Laughter circled the table. I set a folder down beside my plate and slid out a copy of the vehicle registration. "That's strange," I said, calm, "because this signature isn't mine." The document moved from hand to hand until the light laughter thinned and disappeared. The forged scrawl sat there shameless. Marianne leaned back, crossing her arms. Such pettiness. A car. You're a grown man bickering over a car. She reached for the paper as if she could erase ink by willpower. I opened a second folder and laid my father's old ledger page in the center. The paper yellowed the corner, marked with his handwriting, "For Jackson." The room breathed in. Marianne's hand shot out. She tried to fold the page into her purse. Harper's fingers landed lightly on the edge. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. She let go. I looked at Kira. "I sent a formal report to the state this afternoon," I said. "The grant application you filed under my name is now flagged with supporting evidence attached." Her smile faltered. A couple at the next table whispered. Sound travels strangely when truth enters a room. Harper cleared his throat. "If this proceeds, funds will be frozen, and any entity tied to the filing can be held for review." He glanced around, making sure each word landed, including Wilder Market. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Marianne's gaze snapped to me, then to Harper, calculating. Beneath the soft music, my phone buzzed. A new message lit the screen. "Be careful. Someone here is recording you to edit your words later." I lifted my eyes and let them sweep the room. 2 tables over, a man angled his phone just wrong, pretending to film the string lights. I pushed my chair back. "I won't debate this at dinner," I said, standing. "I'll let documents speak before anyone can invent a version they prefer." Kira's voice sharpened. "You're trying to humiliate us in public." I slid the ledger back into its sleeve. "I'm trying to stop you from rewriting my life." I placed cash for my drink beneath the water glass and nodded to Harper. He rose with me. As we stepped away, he murmured, "Next move is theirs. Be ready before they make it." We passed the oyster bar and the carefully curated laughter out into the heat where the night smelled like salt and asphalt. Austin throbbed around us, music from a block away, traffic shrugging along the city, indifferent and alive. I tucked the ledger close to my chest and kept walking. At the curb, Harper paused. "Expect noise," he said. "Posts, messages, little fires everywhere. Don't feed them. We'll set the table where rules apply." I nodded and unlocked the car. The screen on my phone filled with notifications, group chats lighting up, a vendor checking in, an old customer sending a heart. I silenced everything except Harper and Riley, slid behind the wheel and let the engine settle into its low purr. Behind me, perlas glowed on a room determined to stay golden even when the gold had peeled. Driving home, I replayed the look that crossed Kira's face when the page with my father's handwriting appeared. Not guilt, not shame. A flicker of inconvenience like a pebble in a shoe. That was the part that chilled me, how small she thought the truth was. I tightened my grip on the wheel and reminded myself that small things crack foundations if you place them right. Back at the motel, I scanned the documents again, uploaded clean copies to an encrypted drive, and placed the originals in a fireproof bag. I stood at the sink and rinsed my cheek in cool water, the skin tight and new. In the mirror, I didn't look victorious. I looked awake. The text came just after dawn, no punctuation, no kindness. "Back off, or your face won't be the only thing that burns." I took a screenshot, saved the number, sent it to Harper with the subject line retained. The word made me feel steadier than brave. By 10, Harper called. "The state has paused the grant," he said. "On our request. That stops movement. It doesn't end scrutiny. On paper, you're the applicant." I sat down on the edge of the motel bed. "So they can look at me," I said. "They should. The sooner we show them what's real, the better." He agreed. "We'll get ahead of it with a sworn statement, exhibits attached." Riley met me in the back lot of my old office park, a place that still smelled like summer tar and vending machine coffee. She held a flash drive like a relay baton. "We got into the legacy mail server," she said. "Archival folder. Someone tried to purge it, but they didn't finish." On my laptop, her recovered thread opened like a trapdoor. Kira emailing Marianne a year ago about a plan to scrub my name from every public-facing asset drafts attached for posts that would announce she'd been running the store since 2020. The send date was my birthday. I felt something inside me knock once, then go still. I forwarded the packet to Harper and labeled it plainly Communications Re-Removal Plan. When the progress bar completed, I pulled up the Tesla account on my phone and exported the trip log. The day of the so-called transfer, the car never left the east side of the city with me in it. Later that afternoon, it pinged briefly at a strip mall where a small notary office shared space with a tax preparer. I dropped a pin, saved the map, and sent the location data along with the time-stamped route. The story they'd built wobbled the moment gravity hit it. Lila's message arrived just as I closed my laptop. She'd found a short, grainy clip from the store's back-office camera saved to a hidden folder by habit more than foresight. The audio was muddy, the angle poor, but Marianne's voice carried clearly enough. "We borrow his name to get the doors open, then we take the name off the door." Kira answered softer, the words clipped by the mic. "People trust him. We keep that until they don't notice anymore." It wasn't a confession carved in stone. It didn't need to be. It showed intent like a shadow shows shape. I walked the perimeter of the lot to clear my head. Delivery trucks rattled the alley. A man in a bright vest stacked water cases by the service door. Ordinary life went on, which somehow made the fight feel more real, not less. I called Harper. He listened to each piece, asked for file hashes, asked Riley to sign a short declaration about the recovery path. Then he said, "It's time. Mediation." I'll request dates. Bring everything. Everything meant more than paper. It meant the day my mother threw a pot at my face because I said no. It meant a childhood of shrinking to fit a frame that never included me. It meant the ledger corners my father marked for a future he wouldn't see. I drove to his grave and sat in the heat with the engine off and the windows down. I'm doing it the way you'd want, I said out loud, the words floating up and falling back warm as breath. That night the city leaned into itself. I walked from the motel to the corner taqueria, kept my head down, listened to the sizzle in the radio and the soft murmur of people who weren't performing for anyone. When I got back, another unknown number had left a voicemail, heavy breathing, and the click of a lighter. I saved it, made a note, turned my phone face down. I spread the documents across the small desk, registration ledgers, grant archive email threads, location reports, the letter, the codicil. The pattern was plain. This wasn't a bad argument that got out of hand. It was a structure planned and layered, falsify, redirect, erase, present a new story until the old one stopped being believed. A map of how to steal a life without leaving a visible burglary. Harper texted close to midnight. Mediation confirmed. 3 days. We put all the cards down, he wrote. No emotion, just sequence and proof. I typed back, understood. Then I added the only thing that mattered to me. It's been 5 years. I'm ready. I turned off the light and lay in the dark with the wallet in my hand, the letters inside pressing softly into my palm. On the other side of the wall, someone laughed. A door slammed. A television muttered through a sports recap. I counted my breaths until the city settled and the night let me in. Somewhere near sleep, I saw the market the way it looked when we cut the ribbon. My father's shoulders squared, his hands steady, my name clean on the sign. I kept that picture because it was true, and because in 3 days I would need every true thing I had. The conference room at Harper's office was silent except for the hum of the air system and the soft rush of the Colorado River beyond the windows. Marianne and Kira sat opposite me, their postures sharp with rehearsed confidence. I placed my father's leather wallet in front of me on the polished table, a small anchor against the tide. The mediator cleared his throat, but Harper didn't wait for ceremony. He opened the folder of evidence and began laying each piece down like cards in a game they were about to lose. First came the forged transfer document, the seal exposed as belonging to a neighbor whose credibility was already unraveling. Then the Tesla logs bright on the projector showing where the car had been on the day of the supposed signature, nowhere near me, nowhere near that notary office. Next were the emails Riley had salvaged outlining Kira's plan to erase me from Wilder Market's history. Finally, Harper cued the grainy office video. The room filled with Marianne's voice discussing how they'd use my name until it no longer mattered, then cut me out entirely. Kira sat stiff, her jaw locked, but her eyes betrayed the fear creeping in. Harper lifted the codicil. He read aloud my father's condition. If impersonation or falsification were proven, control shifted immediately to me with legal authority vested in Harper to act on my behalf. The mediator nodded, confirming its legitimacy. Marianne slammed her palm against the table. You are a traitor to your family, she spat, her voice ragged. Your father would be ashamed. Kira tried to steady her, but the weight of the codicil hung heavy. For the first time, she avoided my eyes. I opened the final envelope and withdrew the letter my father had written, the ink dark and steady. Jackson, protect what matters. I trust you. My voice cracked slightly as I read it aloud. Marianne lunged, hand outstretched, but Harper intercepted her with a calm, firm gesture. The mediator asked if they would contest the document. Neither spoke. Silence filled the room, louder than shouting. Pressed from every side, Marianne and Kira signed the papers that restored full ownership of Wilder Market to me. Harper's voice was steady as he declared, From this moment forward, Jackson Wilder is the sole legal owner. I felt the words settle over me like armor. Years of being erased, of being the ghost in my own family's story, closed with a signature. Later that day, Marianne and Kira returned to Lakeway. The house I had once fought to hold together no longer belonged to me. Through the partition process, my share was removed, my possessions already gone. They opened the front door to a hollow shell. Every trace of my life books, photographs, even the kitchen tools I had bought was gone. In the living room, only their belongings remained. A man in a dark suit stood waiting. He handed them the notice the house had been listed for sale, a process triggered by the legal division of assets. I wasn't there to see Marianne sink into the couch or hear Kira's furious protests. I was already on the road, the evening sun painting the hills in molten gold. My father's wallet rested on the passenger seat. I whispered to myself, I don't belong there anymore, and pressed the accelerator toward something freer, something untouched by their poison. My new apartment in East Austin was small, a single bedroom with a view of the street below where taco trucks and late-night laughter floated through the air. It wasn't Lakeway's manicured calm, but it was mine. On the wall, I hung the painting my father had made of Wilder Market, his handwriting in the corner for Jackson. On the shelf, I placed the soup bowl Marianne had once thrown across the kitchen, cleaned and repurposed, as a reminder of what I had survived. One morning, my inbox pinged with an email from a longtime customer. Thank you for keeping Wilder Market the heart of South Congress, it read. The words filled a space in me that family never had. It was recognition without strings, respect without performance. I sat with that feeling, letting it warm the quiet room. Weeks later, the Central Library invited me to speak. The event hall smelled of books and cedar light slanting through tall windows. I stood at the podium and told the story of what had happened, not as an accusation, but as a truth I had carried too long. Freedom isn't winning, I said. It's knowing when to let go. Faces nodded back, some wet with tears, others set with resolve. When I finished, a man approached me quietly. He confessed he had once worked under Marianne and suffered her manipulation too. You're not alone, he said. That simple admission stitched another wound I hadn't known was still open. At home, I began writing. The title of the first chapter came easily the day I walked away. I posted a short excerpt on LinkedIn. Within hours, messages poured in, people I'd never met, thanking me for voicing what they couldn't. For the first time, I understood that my story wasn't just mine. It belonged to anyone who had been silenced, diminished, or cast out by those who should have loved them. One afternoon, I stopped at Whole Foods downtown. In the produce aisle, I nearly collided with Marianne. No shouting this time. No performance. Just tired eyes that once held fire. We stood there, the hum of refrigerators filling the space between us. I gave her a small nod, not of forgiveness, but of closure. She looked away and walked on. I felt no anger. Only release. Outside, the Texas sun blazed down, music spilled from a food truck parked at the curb, and the air smelled of lime and cilantro. I stepped into the light and breathed it in. I lost a family, I told myself, but I found myself. The words weren't bitter. They were true. And as I walked toward the rhythm of the city, I realized that truth was all I had ever needed. I never imagined that freedom would look like this. Not a courtroom victory. Not applause from a crowd. Just a quiet apartment in East Austin, a shelf with a soup bowl that once carried violence but now holds memory, and a painting from my father with 3 words for Jackson. That's all. That's enough. For years I tried to earn love that would never come. I thought if I worked harder, gave more, carried the weight of Wilder Market, maybe my mother would see me. Maybe Kira would respect me. But families built on manipulation do not reward devotion. They devour it. It took scalding soup and a scar on my face to teach me that sometimes blood isn't thicker than truth. Sometimes blood is just another chain you have to break. What I learned is this survival isn't just about walking away. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that others tried to erase. Every ledger line my father wrote, every plan I built for the store, every late-night coding that scheduling app, those weren't wasted years. They were proof that I existed, that I mattered, that I created something enduring. The people who tried to steal that from me underestimated one thing: my ability to stand back up. Standing back up doesn't mean rage. It doesn't even mean revenge. It means choosing peace over poison facts, over falsehoods and boundaries, over begging for recognition. The day I finally let the document speak instead of my pain, I realized I didn't need to convince anyone. The truth was strong enough on its own. And once I saw that, I stopped chasing a family that never wanted me. Do I still feel loss? Yes. The ache doesn't vanish. When I see other families gathered around a table in harmony, there's a quiet pang inside me. But I no longer measure my worth against what I lacked. I measure it against what I've built: resilience, clarity, independence, and a new life where my story belongs to me. That's the inheritance my father really left me, not the store, not the house, but the courage to protect what matters. Maybe you felt it too. Maybe someone close to you tried to erase you, silence you, tell the world you weren't enough. Maybe you're carrying wounds no one else can see. If that's you, let my story be proof you don't have to stay in the house that hurts you. You don't have to hand over your life to people who only see you as fuel for their fire. You can walk away. You can reclaim yourself. And you can heal, not by waiting for an apology, but by building something stronger out of the ashes. Thank you for walking through this story with me. If it resonated, if it stirred something in you, please let me know. Drop a comment, share where you're from, or simply say I hear you. Because the hardest part of telling a story like this isn't reliving the pain, it's fearing that no one will care. Every comment reminds me I'm not shouting into silence. And if you believe stories like mine matter, I'd ask you to subscribe to this channel. Each subscription helps me keep telling the truth that some people want buried. Your support makes it possible for me to shine light on dark places, not just for me, but for anyone who needs to hear that they are not alone. I am Jackson Wilder. This was the day I walked away. And though I lost the family I thought I needed, I found something better myself.